Hello there everyone, I'm Suzavile and today I'll be reviewing the Realm of Imladris for the Third Age Divide and Conquer mod. The initial position of the Realm of Imladris is pretty basically this. You start with pretty much some units and one city. That's all that you have and that you're gonna have for a long time. Now you don't have a lot of income, as you can see there. We'll talk about it later. In terms of the enemies nearby, they're fairly easy enemies nearby, but they are quite spread out. You know, you do have the remnants of Angmar here, and you have the orcs in the Misty Mountains over here. So that will be basically your two initial enemies to deal with. In terms of objectives and the difficulty, you have some difficult objectives ahead of you. We'll have to eliminate three factions: the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, the Remnants of Angmar, and the Shadow of Mordor. This means that it will be a very long time to victory, and there's quite some difficult objectives right there. In terms of paths to victory, of course, you have plenty of options for that victory as well. You'll have to destroy the Orcs of the Misty Mountains and the Remnants of Angmar. How you do that, it's up to you. I've actually played one campaign where I destroyed first the Remnants of Angmar and then proceeded to the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, but of course that's up to you, as I've already said. You start with pretty much two allies in the Northern Dundane and the Grey Havens of Linden, and you start with two enemies, the Orcs of the Misty Mountains and the Remnants of Angmar. Getting an alliance with Bree would prove very useful, so consider that, especially if you want to make this a very straightforward campaign. In terms of the initial conquest, that's the last thing I would like to mention, you do have some rebel settlements nearby, such as this rebel city, the Austin Edil, but do be careful because it will draw you out into Dunland already. I believe that the initial land grab should be pretty much about going against your initial enemies of the Orcs in the Misty Mountains or the Remnants of Angmar, just to make sure that you get a couple of good, decent cities in the beginning. So let's check out the units of the Realm of Imladris. Their unit roster overview, basically, as any elven army, is a powerful army. Great quality of troops. Starting by even the light infantry are medium for any other army's standards. Even the light archers are pretty good, you know, in melee as well. And the medium versions are pretty much the elite versions of every other army on any other faction on this mod. So you also have, of course, the Elderwin spearmen, swordsmen, lancers, and archers as any other faction, as most elven factions, I mean. And you do have the Imladris guards, who are very much your heavy elite warriors, as it says. You have the access to the smiths of the region, if you get the region, of course. The region, I always love that one. And you do have some effectiveness against armor here on the Tulkas Faithful. So not a lot of options, but you have pretty much one of each. I would like to point out, of course, that you have the Imladris Rangers, which are versatile horse archers, and these do make everything much easier for your initial conquests. That's pretty much the overview of this roster. You have one unit of each, and you don't have duplicates in any form whatsoever. In terms of units, you have a powerful army, great quality of troops, and you do begin at least with some units available to you. Tulkas Faithful, as I've already mentioned, will be pretty much your effectiveness against armor units to use. You have the bow, the light bow units, and the sword 20 is, of course, the light sword units. Of course, you shouldn't consider sword 20s as light as anything else, because you can use them up till the end of the campaign pretty effectively, of course. Now, in terms of rate of replenishment, they are about what you would expect from an elven faction. Do consider one thing, that you have to spend 3 turns for even the lightest archers. Take that into consideration when you're playing, of course. In terms of a high upkeep, it's fairly high. It's one of the highest upkeeps there is, and it's not easy to field large armies with Imladris, even after you've fielded a lot of even after you have a lot of settlements on your grasp. So be careful on your decisions with that. You should pretty much be at war with one faction at a time. That would be my advice. In terms of initial army to the elite army, as I've said, the initial army is pretty much decent for any confrontation that you will find, and your elite army is about the most powerful of the whole game. I would consider that. You will have, especially because of your general here, you will have um, some good, you can see the generals right there, you'll have some good chances of getting the best units, especially because, well, you won't have too many units to recruit, so you will have a very powerful unit composition, I would say. In terms of compositions, of course, early army will be rely on archers and the bodyguards to make the job easier, and the late game army, just pretty much anything that you can field as an elite army will do the trick for you. In terms of buildings, well, pretty much all that you have to build up is in Imladris. Let's consider the mines for the beginning and some Dunedain outposts for, yeah, the Dunedain Wardens and the Dunedain Cavalry. I would consider them, especially because of the upkeep. It's the units that you will like the most. Of course, do consider that as your special building, let's say. The Sculptor's Workshop, of course, like any elves, will provide you with some good income, but do consider that you kind of need a couple of stables and other decent production facilities to even begin your unit production. So I would concentrate on the unit production facilities to get them, starting up the recruitment process. In terms of the finances, of course, you have very weak finances. You do have a great king's purse, but your army upkeep will soon expense all of that. So be very efficient with your army. That would be my idea for you on any Imladris campaign. You have a very bad cost effectiveness on buildings. Pretty much the only good building that is cost effective is the Dunedain Outpost. Even the Sculptor's Workshop, for that growth bonus and building out income, it's fairly expensive. So make sure that you have someone there to offset that cost a little bit. You can see that it's 700 less on that construction cost. You should always have that if possible, of course. Pretty much you have a good relation with army. Even on castles, you will have the option to recruit decent armies. Let me show you the buildings over here. Yeah, if it is a castle, you can see that the early castle will pretty much provide what you need, and even a wooden castle will give you Eldarine, Spearman, and Swordsman. So don't worry about that too much. Actually, you don't even need a castle to have the best units that you can. Pretty cool, pretty cool. In terms of ranges, same thing. You will have Noretimal warriors right there. Even on the wooden castle, you actually have the Eldarine archers. So pretty much all that you need is wooden castle to get the best units available to you. So that will be a very good relation with the military in terms of the castle versus city relation. Agents, it's again one of the factions that starts with no agents, and pretty much one of them that actually needs a couple of them. You do need 2 spies at least to check each of your main foes nearby, and you kind of need 2 diplomats, one to go to the east and another one to go to either the west or south. I would recommend going through Moria with your diplomat if you can, so that you can get the most factions as possible, the easiest factions as possible. Certainly diplomats will be for money grab. You need money on the beginning, you only have 1 settlement, so make sure you squeeze every florin out of any faction that you can. No need to trade your map information for too much, because your map information is just a city. However, they won't know that, so make sure that you just trade it for a couple of gold florins. They will never give you the map information for your own map information, that's for sure. Spies will of course be just used for spotting. In terms of the assassins, you can use them perhaps. That will be a good offset if you mass a couple of assassins. And you can sabotage the warg cages or troll producing facilities to make your job a little bit easier. That will be a good idea actually with Imladris more than any other elven faction, I would say. What is there to resume the realm of Imladris? Pretty much strong points, generals, of course. We start with three great generals, I would say, especially Lord Master Elrond right there. And a powerful army and some easy enemies, considering that you have such a powerful army. The weak points, it requires effective battles. Up to the very end, you will need to be very effective with your every single battle that you get. You gotta squeeze every single archer that you have for the most effectiveness possible. You do have few units and a bad economy, and the expansions will always grant new enemies, so be very careful when expanding south, especially so that you don't get into early conflicts with Dunland and the clans of Imladris. You have you do require, that's one other situation here, you do require lots of buildings like any elven faction for cities to be even a little bit effective. In terms of building unit synergy, rush, and tech options, I would say you have bad in written in all of that. If you just stay in your city, there's no way that Imladris can be self-sufficient to produce the necessary units. If you try to rush too early and overextend, then you'll get into trouble. This is pretty much one of the hardest campaigns there is. A very difficult start, and the only thing that it has to it is on the late game, it will be fairly easy. Just make sure that you don't get caught off guard. In terms of time to victory, of course, it's a long time to victory. 50 regions plus 3 factions, and one of them is Mordor. Can you imagine having to go all the way here? Look at this. This is just gonna take so long. But you'll get it, of course. Mainly, it's two paths, north first or east first. That's what you have to do. And in terms of overall, I would say a very difficult start, a very easy late game, and interesting for someone who played with elves already. If you would like some more faction overviews, please don't forget to thumbs up this one. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next time.